What's going on, everybody? I'm Shane from Heads and Tails, and today we got T'Challa with us, and we're going to be covering a little bit more on the hatchlings. So on the last episode, we had talked about you making your hatchlings, getting them in the tubs from the incubator to the tubs, all that good stuff. You got them eating now. They're about 100 grams, and you're looking to sell them. First place I always recommend is to post up on Morph Market. I like Morph Market because you can... for one, it gives the customer a little bit more reassurance that you do know what you're doing because you're obviously trying to be public with it and put it out there. Another one is that it gives you references later on. If you're like, oh, who did I sell that snake to? You can look it up. I actually had an issue with this where somebody was like, oh, I bought a snake from you. And I said, no. I didn't sell you that's not my snake. And I had looked it up and showed them like, hey, these are the snakes I sold. So Morph Market can definitely help. As far as pricing goes, that's up to you. If you have a specific price in mind, you see that snake and you're like, I'm not taking less than this. Don't. It's your snake. You do what you want. If you don't want to sell it for less than that, then don't. If you are, however, trying to move snakes, the market is always changing. So you're going to have to change with the market. That's the only way that you can do it. Personally, I always look and see what the prices are, and then I usually match towards the lower side of the prices. I just feel like, I like to give good deals. Now, this does not necessarily mean that you have to sell it. Say you have a snake that's posted for $225. Somebody can text you and say, hey man, you take $200? Sure. Is that wrong? Are you dropping the market? Are you destroying the market? No, you're not. You're not doing anything. You posted it for $225. Nobody needs to know that it was $200. You know what I'm saying? Now, remember that though for next year, whenever you try to sell the same snake and you're like, I'm not getting $225. Well, because last year you sold it for $200 and now it's $175 because someone else did the same thing. That's why you have to keep going with the market. That's why whenever the market evolves, you have to evolve with it. Be ready to take a little bit less on a sale every now and then just to keep on going. I mean, and it works. It's funny because in the car market right now, there is a lot of people that paid a lot of money in 2020 for their cars, and then cars are actually dropping price like crazy right now. You can get really good incentives. People were paying over sticker price on cars, over MSRP, and now you're paying way under MSRP. The market will rise and drop just like every other market was my basic point there. So with ball pythons, I prefer posting them on Morph Market, being competitive with the prices. I don't try to drop out prices underneath everybody. That's it's not a great move, and other breeders don't appreciate that. So I just try to stay competitive with pricing. Now, when you do go to sell one to somebody, they're going to have a lot of questions for you, depending on who you sell it to. If you sell it to another breeder, it's very few questions involved. They're asking about genetics and weights, and it's pretty easy to sell to other breeders. However, the beginner customer, that's where it gets a little more difficult. One of the issues I've ran into with beginner customers is that I use rack systems. I do have a aquarium enclosure over on the side over here for one of them, but I like the rack systems. So whenever a customer is asking me, what do you recommend? I have a tough time trying to recommend an aquarium setup to somebody knowing how much happier my snakes are in racks. That being said, I know that beginners are not going to go to a rack system until they're ready to start breeding, and that's usually a couple years after they get their first one, or about a year after they get their first one. They change what their mind state of, okay, you know what, I might want to get another one and start breeding. So I always recommend for a hatchling, I say, 20-gallon tank, heat mat on the bottom with a thermostat, some cocoa husk in there, a good hide, a water dish, you're set. Make sure that the lid is secured. It's pretty basic setup. I I don't recommend exactly 88 degrees and then exactly this one on the other side. I just say high 80s on the hot side, high 70s on the low side. Now, you can go low 80s on the low side too, but on average, most houses lose about 10 degrees temperature from one side to the other of the enclosures, or at least that's what I've noticed on these. I've noticed on these it's about 10-degree difference. And the snakes seem fine. Half the time they're at the front, the other half they're at the back. So I feel like they're a little bit more resilient than people give them credit for. However, I do feel like a big hide is a big deal. Or multiple hides at least, because if you get a real big enclosure for one of these ball pythons and it's just a hatchling, it's going to end up giving you some problems. You're going to end up, I'm sorry, getting distracted here. T'Challa's trying to choke me out. What are you doing, dude? The issue is you might end up running into them not wanting to eat or them just acting weird. I mean, I've had bad sheds in aquariums, not wanting to eat in aquariums. It's a more difficult route. It's funny that we always recommend an aquarium setup to beginners, even though we know it's a more difficult route to raise a snake. I mean, the temperatures, the humidity, it all fluctuates so much quicker in a aquarium setup than a tub setup. And that's kind of where I was going with this, where it's tough to tell people, hey, you want to get this setup or you want to get that setup. I'm like, ooh, what fits for you? Because no matter what, we can make it work, So beginners, you do have to work with them as far as, hey, this is the tub setup they have. This is what their temperatures are. All right, let's try to get this here. Let's try to do this. Sometimes if you're having an issue with keeping humidity in a aquarium, you can put like some duct tape or something over the top of the grate on like half of it, which will help hold in a little bit more humidity. There's always ways to troubleshoot whatever problem you're having with whatever enclosure you're doing. So it's not the end of the world if they are using an aquarium. Now, however, if you are trying to breed, that's gonna be crazy. I would not recommend aquariums for breeding. That's for sure. They take up so much space. In the end, when you're breeding, you're trying to get as many as you can within a small space and them still have a great life. And the tubs do that. Aquariums are a little more difficult to do that with. If you have a lot of space though, heck yeah, do it. That's cool, but I don't see a lot of beginners transferring to a bunch of tanks. Actually, I take that back. I'll put you on Front Street on this one. Inkleline told me that when he started, he had a bunch of aquariums and stuff. So, but he is also an advocate for rack systems, just like I am. Once we changed over from aquariums to rack systems, our snakes eat better, they shed better, they're just overall their disposition is better, they're happier. It's a good thing. So I highly recommend that. So as far as selling snakes goes, try to stay competitive. Look up the prices as other snakes are selling for, so you have the right pricing. And just make sure you're honest with everybody. Show them all as good of pictures as you can. Ooh, that's something we're going to have to cover in another video. Taking pictures, because a picture can make a big difference on if somebody buys a snake or they don't. And it can be the exact same snake, but a good picture will make that snake sell better. A bad picture, it might be sitting on the shelves. So until next time, I appreciate you guys. See you later.